You can actually learn something from drunk history, whether it's something interesting about a forgotten war hero or how you shouldn't mix tequila with wine. This is the untold truth of the long-running, hard-drinking comedy series. Drunk History was co-created by Jeremy Connor and Derek Waters, who was also the de facto host of the show, frequently seen drinking a tequila shot with a narrator or donning a fancy wig for a reenactment. According to the New York Times, the whole thing stemmed from a conversation Waters had in 2007 with actor Jake Johnson. Waters and Johnson were, drunk, and Johnson was passionately trying to explain to Waters how Otis Redding passed away.
It's probably got 2 minutes of content, the story. It took me about 45 minutes to tell it. And I thought, man, I just blew this kid's mind.
How hilarious and awesome it would be, thought Waters, to tape drunk people telling a rambling story about a historical event and then get actors to reenact the drunk person's story. Waters had the idea for months, but didn't do anything about it because he didn't think it would work. Plus, he didn't have any clout. Fortunately, one of his best friends happened to be Juno and Arrested Development star Michael Cera, who kept encouraging him to figure out a way to do it. He also promised to be in the show if Waters ever managed to make it. Clout granted. In its first incarnation, Drunk History was a completely different animal. Waters' first pitch was for a reality show. According to IndieWire, the concept was that Waters would rent a bus and drive around the country, hopping into bars and parties in major cities where drunk locals would tell him unfiltered tales of local history. While the show's concept changed into something a bit more manageable, this original concept was retained in the early seasons of the show as a framing device. Waters says he was also offered the chance to do Drunk History as a bunch of sketches that would be edited together into a feature film. While a company throwing money at you to make your movie seems pretty awesome, Waters actually turned it down because he knew the concept of a drunk person describing a historical event acted out by people in period garb is something that would only work in small doses. Further down the line in the production series, the History Channel showed interest in putting Drunk History on the air, but wondered if the word drunk had to be in the title or if the narrators had to be drunk. So it'd just be history? That kind of kills everything special about the show.
Storytelling.
While a brain on booze isn't the most reliable conduit for information, the cast and staff of Drunk History ensured that the show's narration segments, and by extension, the reenactments, came out accurate, albeit in a swervy, tipsy sort of way. In order to come up with good material, the producers had a group of history doctoral students from UCLA compile hundreds of potential Drunk History stories before each season began taping. That list was then pared down, and each story was matched up to the comedians who signed up to narrate, based on their historical interests. Waters told The Wrap in 2018, "Most of the people who do it have some sort of idea of the story prior, or the world that it's going to be discussing. To guarantee that the guest stars appeared to be experts on their topic, they were encouraged to cram like it was a high school history test." Waters explained, "We send them a research packet so that they have 1 or 2 weeks of studying it over and over again. The packets usually consisted of a 3-page summary of the historical figure or event, links to documentaries, and book recommendations for a deeper dive. When taping actually happened, Waters just let the narrators ramble on, stopping them only if they got a date, name, or some other fact wrong."
What year are we in?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
With such a hot property on his hands, Derek Waters was naturally beset by requests from agents of big-time Hollywood big shots who wanted their chance to cut loose on Drunk History, and he was happy to have them on, provided they were easy to work with. Fortunately, there were certain fail-safes that weeded out a lot of potential human buzzkills. The fact that the reenactments took all day or more was a major turnoff for busy actors, as was the fact that the show operated on such a shoestring production budget that it could only afford to pay $600 for a day of on-screen work. Nevertheless, some stars were still down, like Oscar winner Octavia Spencer, who guest starred as Harriet Tubman. Waters would later single her out as being a delight to work with. In addition to being solicited by celebrities and their agents, on occasion, Drunk History producers would approach stars with offers and roles in mind. One major actor who declined the chance to star in a historical reenactment? Adam Sandler, who didn't want to play Davy Crockett in a segment about the Battle of the Alamo. Waters took on the role himself, telling Entertainment Weekly, "I really wanted to be Davy Crockett, and I'm glad Adam Sandler said no."
You are a gentleman, but with just the right amount of a bastard.
Drunk History was both extremely accurate and deeply entertaining, which would probably make it an effective educational aid in history classes, were it not for all the unbridled drinking and bleeped profanity. Still, its value came from an earnest and honest place. Waters explained, "I wanted to be a teacher. I just never thought I'd be a teacher like this." Apparently, this uncommon teaching path has actually made a positive impact. Waters explained that his show seems to be a valuable teaching tool at the college level, saying, "People have told me that their professors show a clip. The thing that gets me is some people say, I had a test and I didn't know this until I saw Drunk History. I passed. I knew this question that was on my test because of Drunk History." For the actors to get their lip syncing of the drunk narrator's tales just so, the sets of the historical reenactment segments were outfitted with gigantic speakers that bellowed out the drunk narrations a few lines at a time on a loop. But when the actors nailed it, it was all worth it.
This is about to be, like, I'm not even about to bullshit you. This is about to be some bullshit. Like, this is about to be like a real stealth operation. You motherfuckers have never seen no shit like this before.
The real technical problems came when shooting the drunk portions. Oddly enough, drunk people combined with expensive filmmaking equipment added up to potential disaster. Who knew? Co-creator Jeremy Connor told Complex that problems with audio were almost a given, and that the drunker the comedians got, the less they seemed to care about keeping the expensive microphones safe. Another problem? The narrators sometimes got so hammered that they wound up laying face down on the ground or on a couch, and they would try to tell their stories that way. Unfortunately, microphones can't pick up audio when it's drunkenly mumbled into a couch cushion or throw rug, meaning the production crew always had to be ready to help get things back on track. Derek Waters liked his narrators good and hammered for real. The show was called Drunk History, not sort of tipsy history, after all. This explains why, according to him, every single one of the narrators puked at some point during their taping. Waters even worked up a little drinking routine. He encouraged the comedians to have a drink before the crew arrived to get them warmed up and loose, but not too many. Waters has said he's had to reschedule when he's shown up at a narrator's house to find that they were already 5 or 6 sheets to the wind. Then, to loosen them up further, and to get them comfortable with losing all their inhibitions on national TV, Waters would share a drink with the narrator. The drinking continued throughout the shoot, so the narrators got pretty plowed.
Some celebrateds. What's the word I'm looking for? Some,
Mark?
hold on.
What specific alcohols worked best? Over the span of the show, Waters told Cheddar News he learned that beer makes people talk too much about themselves, wine makes them sleepy, and bourbon, quote, makes you do what I like on the show, which is make you think you're the smartest person. According to Business Insider, a taping of the average narration segment for Drunk History could last around 6 hours. Multiple takes were required, from which the best was selected later on. On Drunk History, this was usually the one where the narrator is the drunkest, but not necessarily the one where the comedian is trying to be funny. Waters said it's because people naturally try to be funny when they're drunk, but even professionals forget how to craft a joke when the world's spinning all around them.
Mark. Mark.
The production crew also took measures to make sure everybody was safe while filming.
Yeah, we have a medic and security on set. It's a poison. You shouldn't drink alcohol.
Drunk History filmed actual drunk people being drunk, but some got far more drunk than the rest. Co-creator Jeremy Connor told Complex in 2005 that 2 narrators stood out. Comedian Duncan Trussell somehow managed to tell the story of Thomas Edison's destruction of rival Nikola Tesla on the floor of his bathroom. The other was Natasha Leggero, who drank a bottle of white wine and followed it with some tequila shots and then tried to film from a bathtub filled with moisturizer. However entertaining that might have been to see, the thread of history was surely lost. The comic ended up calling production the next day after she'd sobered up, unable to remember if they'd finished taping her episode or not. Turned out they hadn't, so they had to reschedule. Drunk History aired its 6th season finale on Comedy Central in August 2019. And a few weeks later, the network ordered a 7th season as part of a major production and development deal with Derek Waters.
Cheers to being perfect.
Yes.
About a year later, in August 2020, per Variety, the cable outlet decided it didn't want more Drunk History after all and canceled the renewal, effectively ending the show. Ratings-wise, the show remained a decent performer up until the end of its life on Comedy Central, and at the time of its cancellation, it had just been nominated for multiple Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Variety Sketch Series. What truly killed the show was that it was a victim of an evolving approach to programming on the part of the network. After coronavirus-related shutdowns led to temporary production delays on live-action shows, Comedy Central canceled or moved nearly all of its non-animated scripted shows, scrapping Drunk History in the process. When Comedy Central suddenly canceled Drunk History in the summer of 2020, production on the show's 7th season had been halted for months due to international shutdowns. Unfortunately, that put an end to co-creator and host Derek Waters' plans to pay tribute to the person from his Baltimore childhood who made him a history buff, and whose teaching style had a strong influence on Drunk History. Waters told Gold Derby, "Why I love history is my high school teacher, Mr. Stang. He would be able to somehow relate the historical figure that we were learning about or the moment in history and then turn it into why the Orioles suck right now." Waters had an episode in the works where drunk narrators discussed their favorite and most personally impactful teachers, and it would have ended with Waters and Mr. Stang, quote, getting drunk and teaching the story of the Whiskey Rebellion with Alexander Hamilton. Unfortunately, it never came to pass. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite movies and TV shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.